Welcome to the Generation Elevation podcast, a conscious, connected platform for those who are ready to manifest their dream life. I'm your host, Elise Riley, a former PT, now motivational speaker, igniting empowerment and transformation all across the globe. Here at Generation Elevation, we are committed to bringing you the most inspiring guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and advice to help you progress closer to living a life of your own terms.
Welcome back to another episode of Generation Elevation. Now, in today's episode, I am going to split it up into two. It is a tough subject. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Heartbreak is an intense emotion. It's all the things: anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, all of the emotions that can come up when we're experiencing heartbreak. So it can be a quite intense time. Now, if this is what you're going through right now, I am so grateful that you are here and you've found my podcast right now, because I trust that whatever is said right here, right now, is exactly what you need to receive. Not everyone's going to receive this content in the world. So the fact that you are here right now is a synchronicity in itself. And so I just want to say thank you for showing up for you by being here right now, because I know when you're going through this sort of time, it can be tough to do anything. So the fact that you're here means you're exactly where you're meant to be. And I am so grateful that I get to hold you in this. I'm going to speak from two perspectives: heartbreaker versus heartbroken. I believe that both will feel the intensity of those lower vibrational emotions: anger, sadness, fear, guilt, hurt, etc. You're going to feel it whatever side of the coin that you are on. And I am really grateful that I get to do this episode today, because, if my younger self came to me and asked for advice, this would be exactly what I would give her. And so the fact that I get to share this with you all today is really, really special. If you are new here to my show, welcome. It is so nice to have you. I am so grateful that this can be one of your first episodes. I know that if you're experiencing heartbreak right now, I feel for you and I've got you. And if you do enjoy this episode, I have many more elevating episodes that can help you transcend beyond those lower vibrational emotions, so you can be feeling that love for yourself again and finding and remembering that powerhouse that you are. Please feel free to subscribe on iTunes, on Spotify, wherever you are listening from. And if you really enjoy this episode and you feel like it would resonate with someone that you know or someone in your community, please screenshot and share to your story, because the more people that get to access this, the better. I'm doing my inner child proud right now, because oh my gosh, I wish I had this advice back then. And so I really am so excited to share this gift with you all. So like I said, I wanted to start off by splitting the two up, but let's just talk about heartbreak in general. First of all, it can really be not just relationships that you can experience this with. It could be through your career as well, or letting go parts of your identity that are no longer serving you. These are all emotions that can come up when we are dealing with a separation between two beings, whether that be physical or whether that be on an energetic level as well. So letting go of your old self can be quite intense for people, but also obviously splitting up with your partner and also going through grief, where I can talk about loss and grief in another episode as well. Heartbreak can come up in different scenarios, and usually for most people it will feel just this sinking feeling. It will feel very anxiety, nervous, fluttery, almost someone's got your throat and you can't breathe. I get it. I've been there and it is not fun. It's super, super intense. I do have some notes here because I really wanted to make sure that I shared with you everything that come to mind when I think of heartbreak. And in those times that I have experienced this, like I know that the things that heartbreak teaches you is so extremely powerful. And I saw the other day on Instagram a quote by Eckhart Tolle, and he is quite a famous philosopher, and he speaks about relationships being your opportunity to become more conscious. So each experience that you do have brings you back to remembering who you truly are, which is that thing that is aware of your thoughts, not actually your thoughts themselves, like bringing you back to the awareness of your source energy underneath all the thoughts, that inner peace, contentment, and love. Heartbreak breaks you open. It breaks your heart open. Okay. And it's almost like when you sit really uncomfortable for a bit and then your leg goes numb and you're like, oh, I kind of need to move now, but I know it's going to be really uncomfortable. But like, if I stay here, my leg's going to fall off. So then you like get out of that uncomfortable position and all of a sudden you get this like surge of pins and needles, and it is the most like intense pain. You're like, oh my gosh, that hurts so much. It hurts so much. You've got to like breathe through it. You're going to tell yourself it's okay, and then eventually it will go away. That is what I feel heartbreak is in a metaphorical type of way. I believe heartbreak opens you up because the world needs you open. And I've spoken about this before, that whatever breaks you down breaks you open. Those moments that we find ourselves at the depths of the depths, our lowest of lows, that allows us to be really grateful for those highs. And in those lows are birth qualities within you that are needed for that next step in your journey. And it's almost like an initiation of the hero's journey, those tools, that strength, that courage, that self-worth that you need then for what you actually desire in your heart. You don't want someone that doesn't want you, or vice versa. And I'll speak about this in a second, especially from the heartbreaker perspective. But I just believe that relationships allow you to remember who you are. Every single person that you are in contact with, whether that be intimately or on a friendship level or through your career, usually energetically you are a match in some way, shape, or form. Every single person that thinks a thought will then produce an emotion, which will then have an energy that creates an electromagnetic field around your body. Now, this field is equal to the emotions that you experience, and those two people that have similar energy will attract each other. Now, if you have similar energy to a person and you are attracted to each other, you're most likely going to have similar beliefs, similar thought processes, similar emotions that you experience, similar habits. You'll probably wake up the same. You'll probably have similar hobbies and interests and talk about similar things. Like if you look at the 5 people that you are closest to, you'll have a lot of similarities between those 5 people. And that's because your energies are matching. Now, what happens is when you start to elevate, when you choose to become a better version of yourself, things in that you once identified with, your ego, right, begin to change. Your identity begins to shift. You no longer think the same thoughts and therefore no longer experience the same emotions. And when you no longer experience the same emotions, you then no longer have a similar energy. So what happens when you begin to shift and when you begin to wake up and become conscious, your personality changes, the food you eat changes, the way you exercise changes, the way you dress, the things you talk about. You don't gossip or complain or blame, justify anymore, right? The more you elevate, the more there is a gap between the two of you. When the gap is created, you can see in a different perspective and go, oh my gosh, like, why was I friends with that person? Or it could be like, why was I in a relationship with that person? Or it could be just like, you see things from a different view and a different perspective and go, actually, you know what? Like, I prefer to spend my time with other people, or this person is actually not supporting me in this way. And I was so zoomed in that I couldn't see things clearly. There's a lot of things that happen when we do begin to elevate and shift our perspective, and that split of energy becomes. When you have that split in energy though, usually the other person will unconsciously feel it also. Now, we are consciously aware of that split, but for most people, they don't actually realize they're sensing energy. Like most people don't understand that when they feel like a disconnect, that it's actually the energy changing between the two people. And the disconnect is actually just them elevating and you elevating and them not, right? So what happens then is that person will usually then project a negative script like, oh, like you never hang out with us anymore, or you're so selfish, or like, don't be silly, be realistic, like that's impossible. All the projections that will be mirroring back our shadows as well, right? And that is usually an attempt to close the gap. The underneath that negative script is always just a cry out for connection. So what I want you to do next time you are feeling that disconnect, you're on that elevation journey, I really want you to just have compassion for these people that you do come across that potentially are speaking quite negatively because, well, one, first of all, you were that person not long ago. Number two is that they're just trying to connect with you in any way that they can. And this is the only way that they really know how to, is through that negative script and language. So I just wanted to start with that there. Relationships are your biggest mirror. I've spoken about this in multiple podcasts and episodes before, but especially intimate relationships, like that person, when you separate in a relationship, an intimate relationship with someone, it's like separating from that person that reflected back to you how much you love you and all the things you love about yourself, but they also then project back to you your shadows and the things that you potentially don't like as well. So it's really important to know that like that crash, that low, it's not that you're never going to find that love and that excitement and happiness again, but it's actually just an opportunity for you to be able to discover how to give this to yourself. No one can make you happy. No one can love you like you can make you happy and how you can love you. Everyone is your mirror, and the more you love yourself by yourself, the more other people can love you too. Okay, the more you treat yourself with respect, the more you like spending time alone, the more people will like spending time with you, the more people will respect you. It's a two-way. It's very energetic here, and it is your mirror. People are your mirror. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is being the heartbreaker. I'm going to speak about this first. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you would know that in the past, I've had one serious relationship that was for 5 years. This is from when I was 14 to 20. I know that's not 5, but it was around that time. So 14 to 20. And this person I loved with my absolute whole heart. They are still incredible, and I have the utmost respect for this person. Now, I found that as I was elevating, this is where that split becomes relevant, and I'm closing the loop here. As I was beginning to elevate and choose to learn more about spirituality, meditating more, looking after my body, really being conscious of my thoughts and the way I would think, I then noticed a split of energy, and I was zoomed out and I was seeing things from a different perspective. This person also noticed the disconnect, and then the negative script would come in trying to bring me back. The thing is, when you're elevating, you cannot bring people with you because it will halt your progress and your journey. Okay. That is one thing that I have learned, is you cannot bring people with you. You cannot force someone to do the work. They must choose this on their own. Now, one thing I wish I told my younger self back then is to communicate. Communication is key when it comes to relationships. I used to just hold everything in. I would bottle everything up, and I wouldn't explain how I was feeling or any doubts or any concerns with this person because I was scared. I was confused, and I didn't trust myself. And I always had the belief that this person would break up with me me because like he was the best that I would arrive at and I could never do any better. And that was my thought process. Like, nope, like I am holding on to this person for the rest of my life, you know? And then I come to a point where I just had this thought of, you know, there is so much out there for me. I'm super passionate about my career and I see myself in the Gold Coast alone. Like I don't see myself with this person coming with me. And I never communicated that. I was very unclear. And at that time I was like 19, 20, and I didn't feel brave enough to speak my truth because I was scared of the rejection, of being shut down or gaslighted for feeling the way that I did, because I wasn't even sure why I was feeling that way. So I think that if I was to give my younger self advice, how I was feeling and experiencing at that time, it would be to just take a breath and speak my truth. This is what's coming up for me, and then allow the discussion to flow from there. One thing I will say is if you are thinking about something, like let's not talk about relationships right now. If you're thinking about something right now, you're most likely going to be thinking about it in 3 months, 6 months, a year's time. Like if this is a constant thought that you've been having for a while, it's usually not going to go away. Like for me, I sat with that thought for a really long time because I didn't trust myself. I didn't know whether I was doing the right thing. I thought I was making a really big mistake. And in that, I then like just people pleased and let everyone else make decisions for me. So I would say to trust, if you're thinking about breaking up with a partner or having a conversation with someone, I highly recommend just like biting the bullet and doing it, because in that energy, right, in you suppressing that fear, in you suppressing the anger, sadness, whatever, you are like cutting off your life force and energy. Like when you do experience heartbreak or when you do experience any sort of emotion, which is anger, sadness, fear, like you are experiencing so much energy in that, and allowing that to flow through you will elevate you so much. And through the suppression of it, you will find that you're probably getting really tired and exhausted a lot of the time. So that would be my tip there. Literally with this podcast, I had an idea to start it for ages and I didn't start it until like a year later because I was still like second guessing. And it's all about that trust piece now. And for me now, I've built that utmost like rock solid trust in myself so that when an idea comes, I can follow through straight away. What I would say if you are thinking about breaking up with someone is to do the work on yourself. What is it that you truly desire for you? And could your needs be met in this relationship, or do you need space? Like what is it actually that you need right now? And how can you communicate that clearly? Like, are your needs not being met? Can you communicate that with your partner? That is something that I could not do back then. And if I was to give my younger self advice, I would say get clear on what needs you have right now that aren't being met. Communicate this clearly to your partner and get clear on what you actually want. Like, what do you desire? For me, I desire to go to the Gold Coast alone and for me to live my life and experience life without a partner. And I didn't know how to communicate that. I kind of just went cold turkey on it. And I definitely would have done, if I had another chance, I'd do things a lot differently. So the thing with this is as well, you can run away from the people, you can run away from the places, but you can never run away from yourself. If you are someone that keeps getting into flings or relationships with people and you find that they're just not the person, so you keep just breaking up with all of these people, right? Ask yourself, what is it about them that you don't like that is actually within you? Because wherever you go, that energy will always follow you. Like if you keep attracting red flags, why are you attracting red flags? What is it in your energy that is bringing these people that are just not it to you? Because these patterns will just continue to repeat themselves. If you are not doing the work on you, if you are not getting clear on like what you actually desire, these patterns will keep playing out in your experience. A lot of people I see move states, move countries, trees, right? And they expect that everything's going to change and it's going to be amazing and they can escape their hometown and escape the people that were in it. And then when they get there, they have a shit experience and they're wondering why they can't make friends. They're wondering why they're attracting negative people or things keep happening to them, when actually it's just something in your energy that is bringing this forward to you. So I want you to take a really hard look at yourself and ask, if you're going through this right now, ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to run away from? What happens if I was just to face that? What happens if that person that I've been attracting or these similar patterns that I've been attracting is actually reflecting back to me something within me? Ask yourself, how are they me? How is this me? And that will usually give you your answer. Some really cool techniques that you can use to get clear on like what potentially you could be avoiding, what potentially you could be suppressing, is to use it in this format. So I'm going to get you to write down notes. Write this down in your phone, on paper, whatever you got to do, okay? What you're going to write down is, I am avoiding having a conversation with blank about blank. So I'm avoiding having a conversation with my partner about our sex life. That's it. I'm avoiding having a conversation with my partner about what he said earlier or what she said earlier, what they said earlier. Then underneath that, you're going to write, I never told blank about blank. I never told my partner about how I don't enjoy what he brings home for me for food every Friday night. I don't know. I never told my partner about how much those words that they said the other day at the party hurt me. Those two prompts, I'm avoiding having a conversation and I never told so-and-so about. I want you to try and get out as many as possible and just get clear on like, okay, well, what are the conversations that you're avoiding and with who? What are the things that you never told anyone about? Where are the times that you suppressed your voice? And in those prompts, what it's going to do is actually bring things to your conscious awareness that potentially you've been avoiding or suppressing. So give that a go and definitely let me know how you find that. And if you do have those conversations, I'd love to hear your experience and how it went. The next thing that I also really had that come through that made it clear to me on what my decision was I envisioned myself a year from now. A year from that point that I was going through, and I was experiencing like, okay, where am I? What am I doing? Tapping into that higher self. And it was sunshine, it was Gold Coast, it was a vibe, and I was living my best life, and I was going through a secret garden, it was a pool beach party, had a staffy dog with me, had some friends around. The partner that I was with at the time wasn't there. And I had to get really, really fucking clear within myself and be like, Elise, like, if you really love this person, you are doing a disservice by being in this relationship with them, because they deserve someone that is 100% in, and you deserve to be 100% in for someone else. Okay. And so I was like, okay, I'm sick and tired of making excuses for myself. I'm going to do it. The next piece of advice I would give to my younger self about this whole situation would be to just not ask anyone for advice. Do not ask anyone for advice, because everyone's going to give you a different opinion. Everyone's going to give you a different answer. And then you're just going to get even more confused about what you should actually do. The answers that you have, that you need, come from within. You are your own source energy being. You can channel exactly what you need to do next. You can connect with God, source, spirit guides, whatever you believe in. You can connect with that, and that can give you the next step forward. If you've done the work on yourself, if you're elevating, if you are getting really clear on what your projections are around this and how this person is your mirror, and maybe you're just trusting your intuition on this and you know that they are not for you, then stop asking other people for advice, because you have all the answers you need. Nip it in the bud, okay? Nip it in the bud, because if you have these situations, these snarky little comments come up, then it's just going to make everything worse over time. Like for me, I was just so scared of nipping it in the bud that I would just let this volcano at the bottom of the ocean just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I'd had enough. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Whereas it could have been just a really simple conversation that could have allowed things to end really nicely. That's a poor choice of word, but you get the point. If you really are still stuck and you've gone through all these points, it would just be to meditate. Like, this is how I literally spiritually woke up, because I was trying to search search for answers through these influencers that weren't actually qualified to give advice on this. And I was trying to find the answer. I was like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I just took my headphones out. I was like, this is so annoying. And I raged quit. I was like, this is fucked, basically. And I looked at the sky, took my headphones out. I was like, can you please help me? Someone. And my intuition was like, meditate. So I did. I started meditating so much more. I got out in nature more. And that is when I built up the courage to ask for space so that I could be alone and really get clear on my thoughts, my feelings, and my truth, to laugh more, to have fun, to journal. When you have a problem in your mind, right? When you have a maths equation, do you try and figure it out on the calculator on paper, or do you try and figure it out in your head? Most people listening to my episode right now will try and figure it out on a calculator on paper, not in their head. So why are you trying to figure out all of your problems, all of these things that are coming up for you in your head? It's just going to allow you to be in this loop, this negative thinking loop that is not going to do anything for your energy. Okay. So now I want to move on to being heartbroken. A lot of what I just spoke about will resonate with you anyway, and I think will be really great tips to reflect on also. But like I said, relationships are your opportunity to become more awake and conscious. Relationships for most people are awakenings. I've spoken about in my spiritual awakening podcast, the feathers, the bricks, and the buses. And holy shit, when you go through heartbreak, it feels like you're getting hit by a bus. And I get it. Like your throat closes up and your stomach sinks to the floor and your lungs like squash up and you're like, oh. The best advice that I could give you right now would be time. Time heals everything. It really, really does. Okay. And you're probably rolling your eyes at that one because I'm sure most people by now have told you like time, just give it time. And so some more tangible points that I can say in that, if you're really like going through heartbreak right now and it's fresh, is just like get out in nature, breathe. Every time you experience like anger, sadness, fear, let it be there. Don't push it down. Don't deny it. Give it that energy, room to flow. Feel the depths of your being. Allow it all to just come up because it's almost like going through your body and cleansing and clearing you. I do have a heartbreak meditation on my website, so you can go and check that out if you feel called to. But the first thing I would say is just breathe through those emotions and count to 10. Like honestly, count to 10 when you feel like it's all a bit too much. Like I said before, when you have complicated maths equations, you don't try and figure it out in your head. So why try figure out complicated life equations in your head too? Journal, get all of your thoughts out on paper. Write until you can't write anything more. This will just allow your thoughts that might feel like they're spiraling or overthinking or there's too much. Like I remember I used to try and tell myself like, I just want to stop thinking. I just want to stop thinking. I wish I could just stop thinking, right? If I would just stop thinking, I'd be dead. But it felt like there was just a gazillion thoughts going on in my brain and I just didn't know what to do with them. As soon as I'd get them out on paper, I'd realize like there'd be like 2 or 3 or 5 thoughts that were there that I'd just be on loop, you know? So journaling would be another tip. I've also got on my notes like cry. Like how good does it feel after a good cry, you know? Allow yourself to. So many clients that I deal with on a one-on-one basis, we go through these healings from the past and clearing a lot of past traumas, and a lot of tears do come up in this process, but it's the many times that they've stopped themselves from crying has then led to illness or disease or blockages in their energy and in their body, which then has to be released later on. Allow yourself to just let this energy move through you. Cry as much as you want, because when you do this, you're also allowing that energy to flow and you're releasing it. You're not trapping this emotion into your body and into your cells. Another really good one is screaming as loud as you can into a pillow or even in the car, like going, as much. I'm not going to do it into the mic, but you get the gist, okay? Underwater, whatever you're going to do, wherever you feel comfortable, if you're in nature and you're like in the abyss somewhere, just scream as loud as you can. That, for me, felt really, really good. The next one would be like get a pillow and like punch the shit out of the pillow. Or you could do a boxing class or like a high intensity fitness class just to like exert that anger energy, right? Because underneath anger is sadness. So once you've cried it all out, you might feel anger because that means your energy is elevating, right? You're going to feel better, even though it still doesn't feel like great. It's actually meaning that it's moving and changing. So notice the changes in your mood, okay? The next tip would be space and clearing. Okay, so what about the photos that you've got of you and this person? Like, that's why I say my first tip is time, because at first you're probably not gonna delete anything. But if it's been a month or 2, 3, you'll know when you're ready. But getting rid of photos, getting rid of anything attached to that person in the old, like it is time to let that go, because holding on to that is then going to stop you from allowing your actual person to come through. It's going to stop you from allowing other opportunities to come through because you're holding open a door that should have been closed a long time ago. So anything energetically attached to this person, it's time to release. Okay, so social media, if you don't want to block them, like mute them or at least unfollow it. Avoid watching their stories. It can just get really icky and it's not doing anyone a favor, especially not yourself. If you keep going to their social media to see what they're doing, like it's only going to hurt you. So if you can just like cut, it's like if you're going on a diet and you're a chocolate fiend and then you like purposely put chocolate in the fridge and just let it stare at you, like, no, that's not kind to you. Just get rid of it. Get rid of all the shit. You don't need it. So social media is a big one. And then messages as well. Like you don't want to be going back through the messages that you've had with this person. Delete it. And like if you really need to like hold on to certain things, like give it to someone else that you trust, like a best friend or a parent or whatever, and just say, hey, like I can't have this on my phone, but I still really would like to keep this. So could you please hold this in like a secret folder for me? Something like that. I'm not sure. I've never done that, but I know that some people have. The next thing would be to get clear. Okay, well, what do you actually need? What do you need now? Because you may be feeling this loss, this heartbreak, because you feel that a part of you was with them. You know, you felt your best when you were with them. But what was it they actually gave you? Because they're just teaching you, okay, they gave you this. How can you give this back to yourself? What is that feeling that you're chasing? What is that feeling that you want to feel? What are your love languages? I've got a whole podcast on love languages. Discover what lights you up. Okay. Discover your own personal needs and then how you can give this back to yourself. Like I've been single for like extended periods of time, okay? And in those times that I've been single for, I am single now, just so in case you're curious, that I've had to discover, okay, well, what do I need right now? Because I can't actually find this in another person and I can't expect anyone to give this to me. Like I must give this to myself. And when I do that, that is when you attract those people anyway, that person. The next thing would be like always, if you can, be the bigger person. Like if they reach out to you later on, or it can get like someone's getting nasty or they're projecting onto you, like how can you have compassion for that person? Like knowing that they are you, they are your reflection of you. And I know that you're hurting right now, but that person is probably also like feeling guilty, feeling awful for having to break your heart too. If they're not, like still, how can you be the bigger person in all of this? Like what I believe, like what goes around comes around, and by you like being the bigger person and sharing like love and light and compassion and just saying, okay, well, that person is obviously not in alignment with where I'm going and what I truly desire. Like I wish them well because I'm obviously on to bigger and better things. Okay. And to be on to bigger and better things, you must be a bigger and better person, right? The next question, like after a period of time has gone past, you might be questioning, okay, well, when is the appropriate time to start dating again? And my advice would be do some work on yourself. Like take some time to spend time with you, spend some time getting clear on what your desires are, like what attracted you to that relationship, why it worked for you in a period of time, why it didn't work for you, and what you're wanting in this next chapter of your journey. Asking yourself, okay, well, why are you dating again? Why are you dating again? I've seen so many people time and time again just like go into the dating process because they are trying to fill the void that was left from their heartbreak that they still haven't resolved within themselves. So make sure that you're not trying to use dating as a void filler, because that ain't gonna work so well. Like I said, patterns will just continue to repeat themselves. You cannot run away from yourself. You can run away from everybody else, but you cannot run away from yourself. So if you're like, why do I keep attracting red flags? It's like, well, it's time to look at yourself, honey. It's time to look within and double check on your energy, how you're showing up and your projections. That would be my advice there. And then you'll know when it feels right. Be kind, be gentle, take things slow, and communicate and be honest with how you feel. If you really like someone, like go and explain that and tell them. If you are feeling a little nervous, if you're feeling a little triggered, like be honest up front and address the elephant in the room. That would be my advice here. If you are going through heartbreak right now, I really trust that things will get better from here. And like I said, you finding this podcast was no coincidence. I love you and appreciate you, and thank you for supporting my show. If you have any questions, if you had anything resonate, please feel free to message me. Feel free to send me an email as well. And also, like, if you did really like this episode, please just like screenshot and share to your story. That would be amazing, and I would be so grateful for that. I love you all. Like I said, it does get better from here. It just takes a little bit of time, one step at a time. Okay. All right. Much love, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for being a part of the Generation Elevation community. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a 5-star rating, written review, share, and tag me on Instagram at elise.riley. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep rising.